I'm a lady, okay? I've never in my life thought about what sort of truck I might want. I have no idea what torque is. I don't feel like I need to. But if you think I'm just going to turn this decision over to my husband without getting my vote heard, think again. This is a major purchase, so you best believe I'm getting in on the action. I don't want to say either one of us has a superior process, but I will say, ladies, we know who will get their way. Here's how we're gonna do this. We're gonna first hear from Eric, and he's gonna let us know all the factors he's considering and ultimately what his choice would be. Then I'll do the same. With any luck, they'll just match up, so we won't have to go through the third part, which would be trying to compromise. I doubt we'll have to call the police or get a mediator involved or anything drastic. It should be interesting though to see how my creative artistic mentality approaches this situation versus his more calculating approach.
First of all, let me say hello. I haven't had the opportunity to meet you yet, but I'm really psyched to be along on this journey that SENA'S is leading us through. It's great to have you with us. And now, to business. I'm looking at 3 big manufacturers, Ford, Dodge, and Chevy, to find us an ideal truck. For me, this is strictly a numbers game. I want objective, quantifiable statistics to work with. There are 3 critical ones that I'm looking at to make this decision: towing capacity, payload capacity, and gross combined weight rating. We've already got a pretty good idea of which fifth wheel we want to tow. It has a gross vehicle weight of 15,000 pounds and a hitch weight of 2,530. Now the hitch weight will probably end up a bit higher than this, as we're planning to put a washer and dryer in the front of it. So let's work with a hitch weight of 3,000 pounds. The truck spec that corresponds to hitch weight is payload. It's the weight down on the truck. This one will be pretty critical. I'm assuming that we'll want the full loadout on whichever truck we get. All the electronics upgrades, safety packages, side steps, tonneau covers, etc. Now, all those add weight to the truck, which decreases the payload. It's a bit of a challenge to find the specs for the exact truck you want, considering all the options. I had to dig into the websites pretty deeply to come up with what I think are pretty accurate numbers. And in fact, it turns out that the payload capacities for the trim packages I want are fairly similar. Dodge has a bit of an edge, but slight. I'm assuming that I'll have to reduce this number by a good 1,000 pounds though. The fifth wheel hitch alone weighs about 100 pounds. Another 280 or so for the humans. I am considering adding a rooftop tent at some point, which is around 400 pounds. And then I'm guessing there'll be 300 to 400 pounds of additional equipment from the factory. So I'm down to about 1,000 pounds left for the Chevy, 1,500 for the Ford and the Dodge. I like the higher numbers as that gives me more breathing space if the hitch weight ends up a bit higher, or if we end up carrying more gear, tools, that sort of thing in the car. So far, Dodge is on top by 50 pounds and 1 point. Now, let's get to towing capacity. The weight going forward, right? This one isn't really even close. Dodge has it by a mile. With their high output diesel engine, I'll be about 17,000 pounds over what I need to get the job done. Ford and Chevy are both cutting it a bit close. They would pull it, but I have to assume that on a steep hill, they would struggle a bit. So if I ever did decide to upgrade, I'd really need to go dual rear wheel for either the Ford or Chevy. I'd rather not do that if I can avoid it. It's very likely that we'll end up on Forest Service roads and even some trails. We won't need serious off-road capability, but the dual rear wheels make it difficult to fit on some of those tracks. Big point for Dodge. Finally, gross combined weight rating. For this, the weight of the truck and trailer have to be less than the GCWR. All of them are up to the task, but Ford and the Chevy leave me with only about 2,000 pounds to spare. With the Dodge, I'll be in the neighborhood of 5,500 pounds under. While all of them would work, only the Dodge gives me that room to upgrade. So we've got to give that one to Dodge as well. So far, there's only one conclusion to make. I don't really need to get into my tiebreakers of horsepower and torque even, although those are pretty close anyway. The only bummer at this point is that the Dodge is the most costly of the bunch by a fairly significant margin. Yeah, still, I have to consider that this is an investment in our future safety and prosperity, so I'll follow the numbers. Yeah, most likely. Sena will pick the most expensive one anyway. That's the way it usually works. It is tough to have class. With that said, let's kick it back over to the lady of the house for her thoughts.
Okay, my turn. I suppose Eric did some analysis of engine size and all that, useful stuff, but my approach is a bit more subjective. I will try to find a vibe and certain atmosphere that will put me in my zone. This comes down to comfort, style, and user experience, so I'll be judging on 3 basic criteria. First one is the color and appearance of the exterior. Second is the comfort amenities of the cab. And the third one is the infotainment system. So let's start with the appearance. I've gone through the configurator for each of the 3 options and set up the looks I like best from each. The overall shape of the Ford truck is appealing, although the front part is maybe a bit boxy. I know it's not a Ferrari, but a bit of a curve in there wouldn't be the worst thing. And I have to say, the colors are not super impressive. The stone gray could work, or rapid red. I never felt great about white. Obviously, white cars are one of the most common on the road because of their clean look, but I think they're not great at concealing dust and stain. I know some people think that white shows less dirt and black color is the one to avoid when it comes to keeping the outside clean. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Would you rather go with white or black if those 2 were your only options? I'm giving that about a 5 out of 10. Let's look at the Dodge. First impression is good. It's muscular, but a bit soft around the edges. Overall proportion looks pleasing. One thing I really like is their night edition. It eliminates a lot of shininess of the chrome, which I think is a bit off-putting, harsh in a way. Also the black accents, and you can do black wheels too, look great with their Delmonica red paint. I'm giving this one more like an 8 out of 10. On to the Chevy. Again, it's a bit angular for my taste. The back end, some softness to it, but the front end is very sharp and a bit on the busy side. I do like the greenstone metallic color, and they have a black accent package that adds something to the look. But I wish there was a way to eliminate some of the chrome on the front and mirrors. I'll go with a 6 out of 10. It looks like, in the appearance category, Dodge is getting the style points. Now, the interior and comfort amenities. One of the big things I want is a sunroof. It looks like all 3 have that option. You can eliminate carpet in all of them. Definitely an all-weather flooring would be beneficial. All 3 will also have premium leather seats with heating and ventilation. Ford has their Baja Tan color, or an onyx. I don't particularly like black, but it feels slicker than tan. The tan reminds me of the desert, but if there's no accent to go with it, it's frankly a bit boring. With the night edition Dodge, you get only black or black and gray, and the black and gray looks nicer. They also look a bit deeper, more contoured than the Ford, but that might just be the photo. Chevy has a black umber or brown pattern that does look very classy. I wish the seats had a bit more meat to them though. They look like a bit like airplane seats in that they're a bit smallish. This one's a close one, given that they all have similar interior amenities and none of them have colors that blow me away. I think I'll narrowly give it to Dodge, based on the fact that their seats look the most comfortable. And finally, onto the gadgets. Something about a truck with high-end electronics makes me feel like a success. It's powerful and refined at the same time. Also, one of my happy places in a car with a good sound system. Singing embarrassingly loud. So if the screens and buttons make me happy, that's a big point. Ford's system looks excellent. It's a nice big screen, lots of buttons, but yet it doesn't look too cluttered. There's an actual outlet right in the dash too, in case I'm using my laptop on the road. Then a major plus is their trailer backing system. If I have to back up a massive trailer, I'm gonna need an assist. Their little knob looks easier than doing it manually. I'm not impressed with Chevy's screen really, it's quite small. Not sure how well you can see the camera view through that. No backup assist either. I think it's out of the competition on this one. Dodge has a nice size screen, loads of cameras, and a very well-rated Harman Kardon sound system. It also has a backup assist, but it doesn't have the easy knob like the Ford does. That gives the point to Ford. Their overall design is cleaner on the dash, and they have that really cool backup knob. Another thing I should mention is that they have an optional safe, which is a nifty feature when you're carrying everything you own with you. Okay, final analysis. That was a close one. The edge goes to the Dodge on the seat comfort, sound system, and overall sexier exterior. Ford almost edged off the victory with the screen and backup knob, but it was still 2-1. Now comes the fun part. The battle for dominance. Married people know what I mean.
So we've made our decisions. Now it's time for the big reveal. Shall we do a countdown?
Okay.
3,
2, 1.
Dodge!
Dodge!
But the Dodge is way better.
Exterior?
Didn't you look at the
Dodge
towing
has comfy seats.
capacity?
Oh, we agree? No fighting?
Well, that was easy.
Looks like we're going for the Dodge Ram 3500. We think it's exactly the right combination of form and function that we are looking for on this journey. So glad that this didn't end with some sort of domestic dispute. And that now we know which truck and trailer we want for our journey. We also know that we need somewhere in the neighborhood of $180,000 to purchase them both. So find those likes, subscribe, and notification buttons because everything helps. And for sure, leave us a comment on your favorite truck and the reasons you love it. I know there are folks out there who are ride or die for their manufacturers, so let us hear it. For the next 2 weeks, we'll be taking our annual trip back to my home in Turkey, so our videos will be a little different. The plan is to show you my beautiful country and also to take a bit more of a dive into what I use as my muse. We'll find out what helps me to pull out the creativity I rely on and what recharges my batteries. So we'll see you in a week. By then, we'll be on the other side of the world. Love you all. Thanks for your time and attention. Have a bright and focused week.